Tyler and KKK were so influential, Congress investigated them both. In 1921, a newspaper series in New York World called Secrets of the Ku Klux Klan exposed by the World offered readers an inside look into the KKK and prompted a congressional investigation into the violence it recounted. Both the expose and Congress agreed that Tyler and Clark were the force behind the KKK, and one reporter commented, "In this woman, Tyler beats the real heart of the Ku Klux Klan today. She has a positive genius for executive direction." Ultimately, Congress decided that there was no need to act in response to the KKK, and ironically, the press the organization received from the investigation boosted membership numbers. Tyler wanted to start a branch of the KKK just for women. The Women's Ku Klux Klan WKKK existed during the late 19th century but fell by the wayside with the larger KKK decline around the turn of the century. Tyler wanted to reinstitute an entirely female branch of the KKK. Tyler was driven out of the KKK before the Women's KKK found its strength, but her desire to have an all-female organization did come to fruition. During the 1920s, there were over 500,000 members of the Women's KKK around the U.S. To join, all a woman had to do was live in a Klan-occupied area and have the endorsement of 2 current WKKK members. Woman had to be non-Catholic, non-Jewish, and non-socialist, too, of course. Tyler attempted to oust the leader of the KKK. Tyler and Clark were enormously successful, pulling in thousands of new members and making a lot of money for the KKK. In the process, they more or less pushed out Joseph Simmons. Tyler and Clark were driving the KKK agenda and even attempted to overthrow Simmons with their own chosen leader, Hiram Evans, in 1921. Evans was a white supremacist dentist from Texas who went along with their plan and took over from Simmons for a time. He eventually turned on Tyler and Clark as well. Tyler and Clark were skilled at making money off of the Klan. In addition to the money they received from dues, Tyler started a newspaper called The Spectator. The group began selling more robes and other items, as well as different pieces of literature. Women had power over blacks through accusations and threats. The earliest women's Ku Klux Klan group, organized in the 1880s, talked about what black men might do to them, and white men preached of the sanctity of white womanhood. The sexually hypercharged imagery, together with economic desires of slave owners, made widespread violence and discrimination against blacks acceptable and even necessary in the public eye. This idea was emphasized by Tyler. Women had power over blacks, especially black men. Accusations of assault sparked both the Tulsa Riot of 1921 and the Rosewood Massacre of 1923, a testament to how much weight a woman's accusation could hold against a black person. Tyler profited from urging droves of women to sign up for the KKK. With an emphasis on women, Tyler and Clark were able to recruit large numbers of new members to the KKK. During the first months of their efforts, they brought over 85,000 new recruits. Membership of the Klan was in the millions by the mid-1920s. When Tyler and Clark agreed to work with the Klan as their own propagation department, they negotiated a percentage of the fee every new member paid. So many people joining Tyler and Clark were soon incredibly wealthy. Tyler identified more enemies to unify her followers. To grow the KKK, Tyler and Clark began naming new outsiders as new threats. Catholics, Jews, immigrants, and non-whites were all targeted and used to create an increasingly unified white identity. This fed directly into the Klan as white people joined to protect themselves, be with like-minded individuals, and feel as though they were taking a proactive approach to preserving their way of life. Tyler also actively engaged with the various regions of the U.S. by identifying specific enemies. She used Kliegels, or paid organizers, to do research on local menaces and scapegoats like Mormons in Utah and Asian Americans in the Pacific Northwest. This extension of the KKK definition of the other opened up a path for new members, but also reshaped the Klan into more than an anti-black group. It was now an anti-non-Puritan organization with a much larger net of hatred.
Tyler said that civil rights movements could threaten white women and white purity.
At the same time that Tyler was calling for women to work for their own rights, she was simultaneously calling on them to fight against another type of civil rights movement, one involving race relations. According to Tyler, women were needed to fight against threats to white purity more than ever, with the threat of African Americans moving into the cities, acquiring jobs, and organizing into groups like the NOP. Segregation was alive and well, but there was a growing confidence among African Americans and the so-called New Negro anti-lynching movement of the 1920s. In order to combat this, Tyler called on women to join the KKK and protect themselves, their family, and their whiteness.
Tyler said that women could be equal to men if they all agreed to be equal in white power.
When Elizabeth Tyler worked on behalf of Better Babies in the 1910s, she advocated for improved hygiene for white infants and children. She was also part of the anti-saloon campaign in the U.S. It was through these activities that she met Edward Young Clark, who had ties to the Ku Klux Klan. Clark and Tyler combined forces and started the Southern Publicity Association in Atlanta, taking on clients like the Red Cross. Once they took on the KKK as a client in 1920, they approached William Joseph Simmons, leader of the group at the time. Tyler and Clark set out to raise the profile of the struggling organization. Through Tyler's guidance, the Southern Publicity Association targeted women to try to strengthen the membership and public role of the KKK. In order to do this, Tyler told women that they would be able to find a sense of equality if they began to work for white power, just like their male contemporaries. Tyler knew we would want to stand alongside our men and help with the protecting, as another woman commented at the time.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care, bye.